blood creeping up from the heathens. Got will, got fight, got pride, got reason. If they wanna go eat, then you know I'm gon' feed them. If you're coming for me, hope you're ready for a demon. I got eyes in the back of my head, I'm seeing. Take me for granted and you know I'm leaving. I'ma take what's mine with the webs I'm weaving. I could take this crowd from seeing to believing. Got a taste for blood and my tongue keeps bleeding from the words I spit. So sharp, so freezing, so cold. Behold, frostbite they feeling. I could tear you apart or I could go heal them. Don't believe in fate, don't believe in ceilings. I just need a taste and my mind starts peeling. I don't pace myself, I grind on kneeling. Got lust for change, I just love the feeling. I ain't gonna give up. Got too little time, I'ma live up. Head down, push forward through the tough times. Cause anything worth doing is a tough climb. And I ain't gonna give up. Got too little time, I'ma live up. Head down, push forward through the tough times. Cause anything worth doing is a tough climb. Cause I'ma live life for the fight, yeah, I'm here to get it. I got drive, got sight, always have a vision. I go by at night, I be in my feelings. I'ma be fine, need time, and I'll still be winning. I live life for the fight, yeah, I'm here to get it. I got drive, got sight, always have a vision. I go by at night, I be in my feelings. I'ma be fine, need time, and I'll still be winning. I can feel the blood creeping up from the heathens. Got will, got fight, got pride, got reason. If they wanna go eat, then you know I'm gon' feed them. If you're coming for me, hope you're ready for a demon. I can feel the blood creeping up from the heathens. Got will, got fight, got pride, got reason. If they wanna go eat, then you know I'm gon' feed them. If you're coming for me.
A Christmas Carol, Binding of a Book. Quite unexpectedly, it reads, Great Expectations. Beside it on the shelf are other books, Oliver Twist, David Copperfield, and of course, A Christmas Carol. A small hand reaches for this last and pulls it off the shelf. A sober-faced young girl, maybe 10 years old, clutches the book to her bosom and intently carries it out of the room and into a cheerily lit sitting room in London, England. one Christmas Eve in the 1860s. The girl carries the book to a corner of the room where a man sits before a large picture window revealing a snow-covered street under a night sky. Handsome in his late 20s with a pleasant voice. Obviously a favorite uncle, he is surrounded by a noisy circle of children and young adults. He is to be the narrator of the story. They are pestering him for something and he is waving them off. I don't know why you should want to hear this story again. You must have heard it a dozen times by now.
100.
1,000. But it's good for a laugh.
And it's your story as much as it is anyone's, isn't it?
Maybe it is, but I'm not sure I'm necessarily the right one to tell it.
Well, that's not true. Grandmother says you're the only one who knows how to tell it right.
The others, particularly the younger children, murmur agreement. The 10-year-old girl passes through the little crowd with the book in her hand.
Please, we want to hear it from you.
She hands the narrator the book. He smiles at it and sets it in his lap unopened as the 10-year-old girl sits at his feet. Slowly, some of the others begin to sit down too. Oh, I don't really need this book. I've been telling this story every Christmas for, I don't know how many years. Since I was a boy. And I know it by heart. It always begins the same way.
How does it begin?
Old Marley was as dead as a doornail. This must be distinctly understood, or nothing can come of the story I'm going to relate. So remember, old Marley was as dead as a doornail. The register of his burial was signed by Ebenezer Scrooge, and Scrooge's name was good as on the London Exchange for anything he chose to put his hand to. As he speaks, the view of the street through the window behind him blurs and resolves itself into a view of the London Exchange. Packed with well-dressed businessmen who hurry up and down and chink the money in their pockets. Among their numbers is a fat man with a monstrous chin who chats with a red-faced man with a pendulous excrescence. Also present is a man with a sharp and bitter face, and as bald as Patrick Stewart, give or take a hair. This is Ebenezer Scrooge. Scrooge is bundling up his coat and heading for the exit when the fat man makes eye contact with him.
Ah, Mr. Scrooge.
Your servant, sir.
Are you off home to keep Christmas?
I'm not in the habit of keeping Christmas.
Then why are you leaving so early?
Christmas has a way of keeping men from doing business.
Come, it's in the nature of things that ants toil and grasshoppers sing and play, Mr. Scrooge.
And it's what it is, and the grasshopper is what it is in Christmas. Sir, it's a humbug. Good day. The two men laugh at Scrooge as he exits the exchange. Moments later, on the massive stone steps just outside the exchange, a shivering, poorly dressed man sees Scrooge walking toward him. Scrooge pays him no heed. The man follows and clutches at Scrooge's sleeve. The two men descend the steps together.
Mr. Scrooge, sir.
Who are you?
Samuel Wilson, sir.
Oh yeah, you're the guy that owes me the odd 20 pounds, I believe. Well, if you want to pay it, come to my place of business. I don't conduct my affairs in the teeth of inclement weather.
I can't pay you, sir.
I'm not surprised.
Not unless you give me more time.
Did I ask you for more time to lend you the money?
No, sir.
Then why should you ask for more time to pay it back?
Because I can't take my wife to a debtor's prison.
Then leave her behind. Why should she go to a debtor's prison anyway? She didn't borrow the 20 pounds. You did. What has your wife got to do with it? For that matter, what have I got to do with it? Good afternoon. Scrooge tries to walk off, but the man clutches at his sleeves.
Mr. Scrooge, it's Christmas.
Scrooge shakes the man off. Christmas has even less to do with it, my dear sir, than your wife has or I have. You still owe me the 20 pounds. You're not in a position to repay it. If it was the middle of a heat wave on August bank holiday, good afternoon. Scrooge stalks away as the stunned man stands and stares at him. We dissolve to the exterior of a London street. Outside Scrooge's counting house. Cold, bleak, biting weather. People in the streets go wheezing up and down, beating their hands upon their breasts and stamping their feet upon the pavement stones to warm them. The city clocks strike 3, but it's quite dark already. Candles flare in the windows of the neighboring offices, like ruddy smears upon the palpable brown air. The fog comes pouring in at every chink and keyhole, and is so dense that although the street is narrow, the houses opposite are mere phantoms. A sign above the counting house door reads, Scrooge and Marley. A tall man whom we will come to know as Scrooge's nephew Fred rapidly walks up to the door, opens it, and enters. Scrooge's clerk, Bob Cratchit, sits in a dismal little cell, a sort of tank, copying letters. There's a very small fire, so small that it looks like there's only one lump of coal. Fred appears all in a glow, his face ruddy and handsome, his eyes sparkling. His breath smokes in the cold.
A Merry Christmas, Uncle. God save you.
The person at the desk bends around, glaring at the intruder. It's Scrooge. Bah humbug.
Christmas a humbug, Uncle. You don't mean that, I'm sure.
I do. Merry Christmas. What right have you to be merry? What reason have you to be merry? You're poor enough.
Come then, what right have you to be dismal? What right have you to be so morose? You're rich enough.
Scrooge has no better answer. Bah humbug.
Don't be cross, Uncle.
Fred enters the office and crosses to a Gothic window in the wall, from which is visible the ancient tower of a church. What else can I be when I live in such a world of fools as this Merry Christmas? Out upon Merry Christmas. What's Merry Christmas time to you but a time for paying bills without money? A time for finding yourself, well, a year older, but not an hour richer. A time for balancing your books and having every item in them through around the dozens of months presented dead against you. If I could work my will, every idiot who goes about with this Merry Christmas on my lips should be boiled with his own pudding and buried with a stake of holly through his heart. He should.
Uncle!
Nephew, keep Christmas in your own way and let me keep it in mine.
Keep it. But you don't keep it.
Let me leave it alone, then much good may it do you. Good it has ever done you.
There are many things from which I might have derived good, by which I have not profited, I dare say Christmas among the rest. But I am sure I have always thought of Christmas time, when it has come around, as a kind, forgiving, charitable, pleasant time. The only time I know of in the long calendar of the year when men and women seem by one consent to open their shut hearts freely, and to think of people below them as if they were really fellow passengers on the way to the grave, and not a race of creatures bound on each other's journeys. And therefore, Uncle, though it has never put one scrap of gold or silver in my pocket, I believe that it has done me good and will do me good. And I say, God bless it.
Bob Cratchit, still in the tank, involuntarily applauds. Becoming immediately sensible of the impropriety, he quickly pokes the fire and extinguishes the last frail spark. Let me hear another word from you, and you'll keep your Christmas by losing your job. To his nephew, and you're quite the powerful speaker. I wonder if you don't go into Parliament.
Don't be angry, Uncle. Come, dine with us tomorrow. Will you come see us?
I'll see you all right. I'll see you in hell.
Why? Why?
Why did you get married?
Because I fell in love.
Scrooge looks at him as if falling in love was the only thing in the world more ridiculous than a Merry Christmas. Because you fell in love. Good afternoon.
Uncle, you never came to see me before that happened. Why give it as a reason for not coming now?
Good afternoon.
I want nothing from you. I ask nothing of you. Why can't we be friends?
Good afternoon.
I'm sorry, with all my heart, to find you so resolute. We've never had any quarrel to which I have been a party, but I have made the trial in homage to Christmas, and I'll keep my Christmas humor to the last. So a Merry Christmas, Uncle.
Good afternoon.
And a Happy New Year.
Afternoon. Fred leaves the room with a wry grin. On his way out the front door and buttoning his coat, he exchanges greetings with Bob Cratchit.
how is Mrs. Cratchit and all the small little Cratchits?
Very good, sir.
All chomping at the bit, waiting for Christmas to begin, eh?
Yes, sir. All very eager, yes, sir.
And the little lame boy, which one is he? Tim?
Tim, sir.
That's right. How is he?
We're in high hopes he's getting better, sir.
Good, good. A Merry Christmas to you.
I'm sure.
Thank you.
Bob Cratchit watches Fred exit, then glances at Scrooge's office, surprised to find Scrooge glaring at him. And you, 15 shillings a week and a wife and family, talking. Bob Cratchit watches Scrooge shake his head and return to his desk. Not the hold, stand with their hats off in Scrooge's office. They hold books and papers in their hands and bow to him. The first gentleman glances at a list.
Scrooge and Marley's, I believe. Have I the pleasure of addressing Mr. Scrooge or Mr. Marley?
Mr. Marley has been dead these 7 years. He died 7 years ago this very night. We dissolved to Scrooge glancing at the church tower, nearly invisible in the fog, as the clock strikes the hour. Time to shut up the counting house. With an ill will, Scrooge dismounts from his stool and nods to Bob Cratchit, who instantly snuffs his candle out, puts on his hat. You want the day off tomorrow, I suppose? If quite convenient, sir. It's not convenient and it's not fair. If I was to stop half a crown for it, you'd think yourself ill-used. I'll be bound. Bob Cratchit smiles faintly. And yet you don't think me ill-used when I pay a day's wages for no work. It's only once a year, sir. A poor excuse for picking a man's pocket every 25th of December. Scrooge buttons his greatcoat to the chin. But I suppose you have the whole day. Be here all the earlier the next morning. I will, I promise, sir. Scrooge walks out into the street with a crowd. Bob Cratchit closes the office in a twinkling. We're at the exterior of Scrooge's building. A dark and threatening building. Nobody lives in it but Scrooge. The other rooms are all let out as offices. The yard is so dark that Scrooge gropes with his hands through the fog and frost, on which is a fairly large knocker. Without its undergoing any intermediate process of change, the knocker is no longer a knocker, but Marley's face. Scrooge gasps. Marley. Marley's face. Not an impenetrable shadow as the other objects in the yard are, but with a dismal light about it, like a bad lobster in a dark cellar. Not angry or ferocious, the face looks at Scrooge as Marley used to look, with ghostly spectacles turned up upon upon its ghostly forehead. As Scrooge lets go of the key and stares fixedly at this phenomenon, it becomes a knocker again. He pauses to look cautiously behind the door, as if he half expects to see Marley's pigtails sticking out of the hall. But there's nothing on the back of the door except the screws and nuts that hold the knocker on. Scrooge closes the door with a bang. A suspicious, slightly unnerved Scrooge walks through his gloomy suite of rooms. Bedroom as usual. Nobody under the bed. Nobody in the closet. Suddenly he sees a ghostly white shape in the darkness on the opposite side of the room. Scrooge tenses up for a moment until he realizes it's only his dressing gown. Quite satisfied, he closes his door and double locks himself in, not his custom. Having changed clothes, Scrooge sits down before the fire to take his gruel. It's a very low fire, and Scrooge sits close to it. Flash cut of every tile adorned with Marley's face, as it was on the door knocker. Scrooge blinks and sees that the tiles have returned to normal. Scrooge rises and paces the room, feeling unsettled. After several turns and more than a few nervous glances at the fireplace, he sits down again. The sound of the downstairs door flying open with a booming sound, and then the clinking of noise much louder on the floors below, then coming up the stairs, then coming straight toward his door. Scrooge starts talking to himself. It's humbug still. I won't believe it. The color leaves Scrooge's face, though, when, without a pause, the source of the noise comes on through the heavy door and passes into the room before Scrooge's very eyes. Upon its coming in, the dying flame leaps up in the fireplace and falls again. The same face, the very same. Jacob Marley's ghost in his pigtail, usual waistcoat, tights, and boots. The tassels on the latter bristling like his pigtail. A wrapper, a folded kerchief is bound about Marley's head and chin. Check, check, check. Check, please. Check, check. Hmm. 1 second, I lost my script. Goodness gracious. There it is. Yeah, I can't believe I did that, you guys. I'm gonna have to edit that out. Okay, here we go. So sorry about that. There she blows. A long chain is clasped about his middle, wound about him like a tail, made of cash boxes, keys, padlocks, ledgers, deeds, and heavy purses wrought in steel. We're all human, right? Marley's body is transparent. Oh my gosh. Marley's body is transparent so that Scrooge, observing him closely, can look through his waistcoat and see the two buttons on his coat behind. Scrooge feels the need to crack a joke to keep down his terror. I've often heard it said that you had no heart, Marley, but I never believed it until now. Scrooge stares into the ghost's death-cold eyes and reverts to his cold and caustic self. Now, what do you want with me?
Much.
Who are you?
Ask me who I was.
Who were you then?
In life, I was your partner, Jacob Marley.
Can you sit down?
I can.
Do it then. Marley sits down on the opposite side of the fireplace, as if he were quite used to it. Scrooge stares at the ghost fixed, glazed eyes as if it were perfectly motionless through its hair. And skirts and tassels still quiver as if by the hot vapor from an oven.
You don't believe in me.
I don't.
What evidence would you have of my reality beyond that of your senses?
I don't know.
Why do you doubt your senses?
Because a little thing affects them. A slight disorder of the stomach makes them cheat. You may be an undigested bit of beef, a blot of mustard, a crumb of cheese, a fragment of an underdone potato. There's more gravy than grave about you. Whatever you are. You see this toothpick?
I do.
You're not looking at it.
But I see it nonetheless.
Well, I have but to swallow this and be for the rest of my days persecuted by a legion of goblins, all of my own creation. Humbug, I tell you, humbug.
Ah!
Mercy, dreadful apparition, why do you trouble me?
Men of worldly mind, do you believe in me or not?
I do, I must. Why do the spirits walk the earth? Why do they come to me?
It is required of every man that the spirit within him should walk abroad his fellow man and travel far and wide. And if that spirit goes not forth in life, it is condemned to do so after death. It is doomed to wander the world. Oh, woe is me, and witness what it cannot share, but might have shared on earth, and turn to happiness. Oh!
You're fettered. Tell me why.
I wear the chain I forged in life. I made it link by link and yard by yard. I girded it of my own free will, and of my own free will, I wore it. Its pattern is strange to you, or would you know the weight and length of the strong coil you bear yourself? It was as full and heavy as this 7 Christmas Eves ago. You've labored on it since. It is a ponderous chain.
Scrooge glances about him on the floor in the expectation of finding himself surrounded by some 50 or 60 fathoms of iron cable. But he sees nothing. Jacob, old Jacob Marley, tell me more. Speak comfort to me, Jacob.
I have none to give. It comes from other regions, Ebenezer Scrooge, and is conveyed by other ministers to other kinds of men. Nor can I tell you what I would. A very little more is all permitted to me. I cannot rest. I cannot stay. I cannot linger anywhere. My spirit never walked beyond our counting house. Mark me! In life, my spirit never roved beyond the narrow limits of our money-changing hole. And everything is lie before me.
Slow about it, Jacob.
Slow!
7 years dead and traveling all the time?
The whole time. No rest. No peace. Incessant torture, remorse.
You travel fast?
On the wings of the wind.
You might have gotten over a great quantity of ground in 7 years.
Whoa! Oh, captive, bound, and double ironed, not to know that ages of incessant labor by immortal creatures for this earth must pass into eternity before the good of which it is susceptible is developed. Not to know that any Christian spirit working kindly in its little sphere, whatever it may be, will find its mortal life too short for its vast means of usefulness. Not to know that no space of regret can make amends for one's life opportunities misused. Yet such was I. Oh,
But
such
you
was
were
I.
always a good man of business, Jacob.
Business! Mankind was my business. The common welfare was my business. Charity, mercy, forbearance, and benevolence were all my business. The dealings of my trade were but a drop of water in the comprehensive ocean of my business.
Marley
At
holds
this
up his
time of year, I
chain.
suffer the most. Why did I walk through crowds of fellow beings with my eyes turned down and never realize them to be blessed star which led them to the wise men, to a poor abode? Where were there no poor homes to which its light would have conducted me?
Scrooge shivers.
Hear me, my time is nearly gone.
I will, but don't go hard upon me. Don't be flowery, Jacob.
How is it that I can appear before you in a shape that you can see? I may not tell. I've sat invisible beside you many and many a day.
Scrooge shivers at this and wipes the perspiration from his brow.
That is no light part of my penance. I'm here tonight to warn you that you still yet have a chance and hope of escaping my fate, a chance and hope of my procuring Ebenezer.
You were always a good friend to me. Thank you.
You will be haunted by 3 spirits.
Scrooge's jaw drops almost as low as Marley's had done. Is that the chance and hope you mentioned, Jacob?
It is.
I think I'd rather not.
Without their visits, you cannot hope to shun the path I tread. Expect the first tomorrow when the bell tolls 1.
Couldn't I just take them all at once and have it over with, Jacob?
Expect the second on the next night, the same hour, the third upon the night next, when the last stroke of 12 has ceased to vibrate. Look to see me no more, and look that for your own sake you remember what has passed between us.
Marley floats out the window into the bleak, dark night. Scrooge follows to the window, desperate in his curiosity. He looks out. The foggy air is filled with phantoms, wandering hither and thither in the restless haste, and moaning as they go. Every one of them wears chains like Marley's. Many have been personally known to Scrooge in their lives. Scrooge closes the window and examines the door by which the ghost had entered. It's still double locked. He crosses to his bed. Without undressing, he gets in and falls asleep instantly. The light from the fire in the sitting room is visible under the closed bedroom door. As we dissolve to the interior of Scrooge's bedroom, Scrooge awakes in darkness. The fire has gone out in the sitting room. As the chimes of a neighboring church strike 12, Scrooge counts with his fingers. 12? It was past 2 when I went to bed. Clocks must be wrong. Scrooge lights a candle and sits on the edge of his bed, looking at his bedside alarm clock. It reads 12. Why, 12? It can't. It isn't possible. I can't have slept through the whole day, far into another night. He picks up the clock and checks it, then seems to remember something. The narrator. Now, of course, the ghost had warned Mr. Scrooge that a spirit would visit him when the bell tolled 1. Scrooge appears to make a decision of some kind and begins to fiddle with his clock. So he resolved to lie awake until the After a long pause, the church bell sounds with a deep dole. hollow, melancholy one. Scrooge's eyes pop open. A wickedly bright light flashes up in the room, and the curtains of Scrooge's bed are instantly ever. Are you the spirit, sir, whose coming was foretold to me?
I am.
Who and what are you?
I'm the ghost of Christmas past.
Long past?
No, your past.
Scrooge winces and blinks at the light coming from the ghost's crown. I wonder if you might put a hat on.
What would you so soon put out with worldly hands the light I give? Is it not enough that you are one of those whose passions made this cap and forced me through the whole trains of years to wear it low upon my brow?
I didn't mean to offend, or what business brings you here?
Your welfare.
Well, I'm much obliged, but I wonder if it's a good night's sleep wouldn't be more conducive to that end.
Your reclamation, then. Take heed.
The ghost puts out its strong hand as it speaks and clasps him gently by the arm.
Rise and walk with me.
Scrooge rises, but finding that the ghost leads him toward the window, clasps his robe in supplication. It's the middle of the night.
Bear but a touch of my hand there,
The ghost points
and
to its heart.
you shall be upheld in more than this.
Scrooge touches the ghost's heart and they pass through the wall. Scrooge and the ghost stand on an open, sunlit country road where fields on either hand. It's a clear, cold winter day with snow upon the ground. Scrooge looks about and clasps his hands together. Good heaven! I was bred in this place. I was boy here. The ghost gazes upon him mildly.
Your lip is trembling. And what is that upon your cheek?
It's a pimple. I beg you, spirit, leave me where you would.
You recollect the way?
Remember it, I could walk it blindfold.
Strange to have forgotten it for so many years. Let us go on.
They walk along the road. Scrooge points out every gate and post and tree. A little market town appears in the distance with a bridge and a church and a winding river. Some shaggy ponies with boys upon their backs trot down the road towards Scrooge and the ghost. The boys call to other boys in country gigs and carts driven by farmers. All are in great spirits and shout to each other.
These are but shadows of things that have been. They have no consciousness of us.
The jocund travelers approach, and as they pass by, Scrooge's cold eye glistens. He hears them wish each other Merry Christmas as they part at crossroads and byways for their several homes.
The school is not quite deserted. A solitary child, neglected by his friends, is left there still.
I know it. We dissolve to the interior of a schoolroom. A long, bare, melancholy room, made bare still by lines of plain deal forms and desks. At one of these, a lonely boy reads near a feeble fire. Scrooge sits down upon a form and weeps to see his poor forgotten self as it used to be. The ghost joins him. Poor boy. Scrooge dries his eyes with his cuff, then mutters, puts his hand in his pocket and looks about him. I wish, but it's too late now.
What is the matter?
Nothing. There was a boy singing in a Christmas carol at my window last night. I should like given him something, that's all. The ghost smiles thoughtfully and waves its hand.
Let us see another Christmas.
Scrooge's younger self suddenly morphs into an older boy, and the room becomes a little darker and more dirty. His former self is still alone. All the other boys have gone home again for the holidays. Young Scrooge is now not reading now, but walking up and down despairingly. He looks at the ghost, and with a mournful shaking of his head, glances anxiously towards the door. It opens, and a little girl, much younger than the boy, stands at the threshold. It's Scrooge's sister, Fan. The older Scrooge is amazed to see her. Fan?
Ebenezer.
Fan steps toward him, arms outstretched as if to give him a hug, and he responds. But as she darts forward, her body passes through him, for she is but a shadow, and puts her arms about the neck of the younger Scrooge. They disappoint Grace.
Dear, dear brother. I've come to bring you home, dear, dear brother.
She claps her tiny hands and bends down to laugh.
To bring you home, home, home.
Home, little Fan.
Yes, home for good and all. Home forever and ever. Father is so much kinder than he used to be. That home's like heaven.
For you, perhaps, but not for me. He doesn't know me or even know what I look like. Same as I hardly know you, now that you're quite a woman.
He spoke so gently to me one night when I was going to bed. I was not afraid to ask him once more if you might come home. And he said, yes, yes, you should, and sent me in a coach to bring you. And you're to be a man. You're never to come back here. But first, we're to have all the Christmas together and have the merriest time in all the world.
You are quite a woman, little fan. She claps her hands and laughs and tries to touch his head. But being too little, laughs again and stands on tiptoe to embrace him. Then she begins to drag him. Check, check, check. Check, check, check. Then she begins to drag him in her childish eagerness towards the door, and he, nothing loth to go, accompanies her. Young Scrooge's trunk is tied on top of the coach not long after. Young Scrooge and Fan bid an old schoolmaster goodbye, get in and drive gaily down the country road. Scrooge and the ghost watch the coach go by, its two passengers laughing and talking.
Always a delicate creature, whom a breath might have withered. But she had a large heart.
So she had.
She died a woman, and had, as I think, children.
One child.
True, your nephew.
Scrooge seems uneasy in his mind. That's right. The ghost casually peers over Scrooge's shoulder, and then Scrooge turns around to follow his gaze. He is startled to see the exterior of a warehouse at night.
Know it?
Know it? I apprentice there. The ghost, using the half-dozen arms that fade in and out of view, gestures after you, and Scrooge enters. At the side of an old gentleman in a Welsh wig, Scrooge lets out a gasp and turns to the ghost behind him. Why, it's old Fezziwig. Bless his heart, it's Fezziwig alive again. Old Fezziwig lays down his pen and looks up at the clock, which points to the hour of 7. He rubs his hands, adjusts his capacious waistcoat, laughs, and calls out in a comfortable, oily, rich, fat, jovial voice.
Yo-ho there, Ebenezer, Dick.
Immediately, Ebenezer, Scrooge's younger self, now a grown man, comes briskly in, accompanied by his fellow apprentice Dick. Dick Wilkins, to be sure. Bless me, yes, there he is. He was very much attached to me, was Dick. Poor Dick, dear.
Yo-ho, my boys, no more work tonight. Christmas Eve, Dick. Christmas, Ebenezer. Let's have the shutters up. Now, come on. Before man can say Jack Robinson.
Dick and Ebenezer charge into the street with the shutters. 1, 2, 3. Have them up in their places. 4, 5, 6. Bar them up and pin them. 7, 8, 9. And come back before the count of 12. Panting like racehorses. Fezziwig skips down from the high desk with wonderful agility.
Hiley-ho, clear away, my lads, and let's have lots of room here. Hiley-ho, Dick. Chin up, Ebenezer.
Throughout, Scrooge and the Ghost watch, or rather, the Ghost watches, and Scrooge lives and relives every moment. Dancing, eating cake, a great piece of cold roast, a piece of cold boiled mince pies, and plenty of beer. Old Fezziwig dances with Mrs. Fezziwig, an impressive display. Young Ebenezer, too, dances up a storm as his elder self looks on in amazement. Scrooge remembers the ghost and becomes conscious that it's looking full upon him, while the light upon his head burns very clear.
It's a small matter to make these silly folks so full of gratitude.
Small. The spirit signs to him to listen to the two apprentices. We overhear a snatch of the conversation as they tidy the room.
What a sweet old man is Mr. Fezziwig.
The sweetest. Didn't you see him dancing with Mrs.? And look on his face.
Oh, yes.
He was in heaven and fully deserved to be.
And where the devil did he find that fiddler?
Wasn't he marvelous? Nothing's too good for Fezziwig. I say this year's party was finer than the last, if such a thing is possible. We dissolve to the exterior of a lake at day. Belle, in silhouette with her back to Ebenezer, faces the glassy water. We can see that she is deep in thought. He reaches out to touch her, but she brushes him off.
It matters little. To you, very little. Another idol has displaced me, and if it can cheer and comfort you in time to come, as I would have tried to do, I have no just cause to grieve.
What idol has to place you?
A golden one.
This is the even-hand dealings of the world. There's nothing on which it is so hard as poverty, and there is nothing it professes to condemn with such severity as the pursuit of wealth.
You fear the world too much. All your other hopes have merged into the hope of being beyond the chance of its sordid reproach. I have seen your nobler aspirations fall off one by one until the master passion, gain, engrosses you. Have I not?
What then? Even if I have grown so wiser, what then? I'm not changed toward you. Belle shakes her head. Am I?
Our engagement is an old one. It was made when we were both poor and content to be so, until in good season we could improve our worldly fortune by our patient industry. You are changed. When it was made, you were another man.
I was a boy. It's true. I'm not now what I was then.
I am. That which promised happiness when we were one in heart is fraught with misery now that we are two. How often and how keenly I have thought of this, I will not say. It is enough that I have thought of it and can release you from our engagement.
Have I ever sought release?
In words, no, never.
And what then?
In a changed nature, in an altered spirit, in another atmosphere of life, another hope as its great end. in everything that made my love of any worth or value in your sight. If this had never been between us, tell me, would you seek me out and try to win me now? Ha! No.
Check 1 second. 1 second, guys. Oh my gosh, you guys, I'm so sorry. Gonna change nature. He seems to yield to the justice of this supposition in spite of himself. You think not?
I would gladly think otherwise if I could, heaven knows. When I have learned a truth like this, I know how strong and irresistible it must be. But if you were free today, tomorrow, yesterday, can I believe that you would choose a dowerless girl? You, who, in your very confidence with her, weigh everything by gain, or choosing her if for a moment you were false enough to your one guiding principle to do so. Do I not know that your repentance and regret would surely follow? I do, and I release you from our engagement with a full heart for the love of him you once were.
A pause. He is about to speak. But with her head turned from him, she resumes.
You may, the memory of what is past half makes me hope you will, have pain in this, a very, very brief time, and you will dismiss the recollection of it gladly as an unprofitable dream from which it happened well that you awoke. May you be happy in the life you have chosen.
Abruptly, she rises and leaves him. Spirit, show me no more. Conduct me home. Why do you delight to torture me?
One shadow more.
No more, no more. I don't wish to see it no more. Show me no more. But the relentless ghost pinions his arms and turns him round to observe the interior of Belle's sitting room at night. A room not very large or handsome, but full of comfort and Christmas decorations. All is quiet. Falling snow is visible out the windows. Near the fireplace sits a beautiful young girl, nearly identical to Belle. Scrooge gazes upon them in awe. I suspect it must have staggered Mr. Scrooge to see these women, especially the younger one, because he had played his cards differently. A woman such as she might well have called him father. And been like a springtime for him in the haggard winter of his life. Of course, he might well have had more than one child. Nearly a dozen children explode into the room, making a tumultuous noise, but no one seems to care. On the contrary, the mother and daughter laugh heartily and enjoy it very much, and the latter mingles with them and gets clobbered ruthlessly. They stream around a startled Scrooge, running, jumping, and playing with enormous energy. Oh, what would I have not given to be one of those children, though I never could have been so rude. No, I wouldn't for the wealth of all the world have behaved so wildly. God bless my soul. The children greet their father, who comes home laden with Christmas toys and presents. Shouting and struggling, the kids swarm their father, Belle's husband. They shout with wonder and delight at each package they receive. Belle has risen from her chair to watch the proceedings and happens to stand next to Scrooge, who watches her and her family closely, no doubt pondering what might have been. Belle's husband says, Belle, I saw an old friend of yours this afternoon.
Who was it?
Yes.
Oh, how can I? Tut, I don't know. Ebenezer Scrooge.
Scrooge it was. I passed him out of office window, and it was not shut up. And he had a candle inside. I could scarcely help seeing him. His partner lies upon the point of death, I hear. And there he sat alone, quite alone in the world, I do believe. Scrooge, sitting beside the ghost on the far side of the room, shuts his eyes and shakes his head. Spirit, remove me from this place.
I told you these were the shadows of things that have been. They are what they are. Do not blame me.
Remove me. I cannot bear it. Scrooge turns upon the ghost and sees that it looks at him with an oddly morphing face, in which there momentarily appear fragments of all the faces that has shown him his younger selves. Fan, the Fezziwigs, Dick Wilkins, Belle, etc. Terrified, Scrooge physically attacks the ghost. Leave me! Take me back! Haunt me no longer. We fade to the interior of Scrooge's bedroom. It is dark. No light shines under the bedroom door from the sitting room. Scrooge, in roughly the same position as we last saw him, lies in his bed atop his pillow. His bedside clock reads 5 minutes to 1. Now Marley's ghost had warned Scrooge that a second spirit would haunt him at the stroke of 1. I don't mind telling you that Scrooge was now prepared for a good broad field of strange appearances, and that nothing between a baby and a rhinoceros would have astonished him very much. By this time, he was ready for almost anything. But you see, he was not by any means ready for nothing. Check. Check, Nez. Now Marley's ghost had warned Scrooge that a second spirit would haunt him at the stroke of 1. By this time, he was ready for almost anything. But you see, he was not by any means ready for nothing. And nothing is exactly what happens. After a lengthy pause, Scrooge checks his clock, sighs in with a last look around, blows out the candle, and lies down on the bed. Suddenly, he bolts straight up, staring at his bedroom door. Light is again streaming in from the sitting room.
Scrooge!
Gets up.
Scrooge! Come in, Ebenezer! Come in!
A trembling Scrooge opens the door and enters. It's his own room, but it's undergone a transformation. The walls and ceiling are so hung with living green that it looks like a perfect grove, from every part of which bright gleaming berries glisten. Crisp leaves of holly, mistletoe, and ivy reflect back the light like so many little mirrors. And a mighty blaze roars in the fireplace. Heaped up on the floor to form a kind of throne are turkeys, geese, game, poultry, brawn, great joints of meat, sucking pigs, long wreaths of sausages, mince pies, plum puddings, barrels of oysters, red hot chestnuts, cherry cheeked apples, juicy oranges, luscious pears, and seething bowls of punch that make the chamber dim with their delicious steam. An easy state upon this couch, there sits a jolly giant, glorious to see. He carries a glowing torch, in shape not unlike Pliny's horn, and holds it up, high up, to shed its light at Scrooge, who comes peeping round the door.
Come in and know me better, man.
Scrooge enters timidly. The spirit's eyes are clear and kind, but Scrooge does not look at them.
I am the ghost of Christmas present. Look upon me.
The ghost wears a simple green robe bordered with white fur. And on its head it wears no other covering than a holly wreath, set here and there with shining icicles. Its dark brown curls are long and free as its genial face, its sparkling eye, its open hand, its cheery voice, its unconstrained demeanor. Girded round its middle is an antique scabbard, but with no sword in it. The ancient sheath is eaten up with rust.
You have never seen the likes of me before.
Never.
I've never walked forth with my elder brothers born in these latter years.
I don't think I have. I'm afraid I have not. Have you had many brothers, Spirit?
Approximately 1842.
A tremendous family to provide for. The ghost of Christmas present smiles and rises. Spirit, conduct me where you will.
Touch my robe.
Scrooge does as he's told and holds it fast. Holly, mistletoe, red berries, ivy, turkeys, geese, game, poultry, brome, meat, pigs, sausages, oysters, pies, puddings, fruit and punch all vanish instantly. So does the room, the fire, the ruddy glow, the hour of night. Scrooge and the spirit wander the city streets on Christmas morning, where the severe weather causes the people to make a rough but brisk and not unpleasant kind of music, and scraping the snow from the pavement in front of their dwellings and from the tops of their houses. Scrooge and the spirit see that the corner poulterer's shop is still open, and in its window hang 2 prize turkeys. One is the size of a boy, the other a little smaller. Happy crowds pour forth into the streets on their way to church, dressed in their Sunday best. We fade down to the exterior of Bob Cratchit's house. On the threshold of the door, Scrooge watches as the spirit smiles and stops to bless Bob Cratchit's 4-room house with an unspoken prayer. Mrs. Cratchit, Bob Cratchit's wife, dressed out but poorly in a twice-turned gown, but brave in ribbons, which are cheap and make a goodly show for 6 pence. 2 smaller Cratchits, boy and girl, come tearing in, screaming something incomprehensible. The eldest, Peter Cratchit, blows the fire until the slow potatoes, bubbling up, knock loudly at the saucepan lid. What has ever gotten your precious father, then, and your brother, Tiny Tim, and Martha weren't as late last Christmas Day by half an hour? As if on cue, Martha, the eldest daughter, enters.
Here's Martha, mother. Here's Martha, mother. Hurrah! There's such a goose, Martha.
Why, bless your heart alive, my dear. How late are you?
We'd a deal of work to finish up last night and had to clear away this morning, mother.
Well, never mind so long as you are home. Sit ye down before the fire, my dear, and have a warm Lord bless you.
No, no, there's father coming. Hide, Martha, hide.
So Martha hides herself, and to Scrooge's surprise, for until now he hadn't a clue as to whose house this was, in comes little Bob Cratchit, the father, Tiny Tim upon his shoulder. He sets Tim down gently. Alas for Tiny Tim, he bears a little crutch and has his limbs supported by an iron frame. He limps badly, favoring his right leg. Bob looks around. Why, where's our Martha? She's not coming. Not coming? Not coming Christmas Day? Martha doesn't like to see him disappointed, even if it were only in joke. So she comes out prematurely from behind the closet door and runs into his arms. While the 2 young Cratchits help Tiny Tim to the wash house, that he might hear the pudding singing in the copper. And how did Tiny Tim behave in church? As good as gold, my dear, and better. Somehow he gets thoughtful, sitting by himself so much, and thinks the strangest things you ever heard. He told me coming home that he hoped the people in church saw him, because he was a cripple, and it might be pleasant to them to remember upon Christmas Day, who made lame beggars walk and blind men see. He's growing stronger and heartier every day, isn't he? The look that crosses Mrs. Cratchit's face is not encouraging. Yes, dear, he is. With his active little crutch, Tiny Tim returns, escorted by his brother and sister to a stool before the fire.
The goose is cooked. The goose is cooked.
Bob Cratchit turns up his cuffs and compounds some hot mixture in a jug with gin and lemons, and stirs it round and puts it on the hob to simmer. Peter and the 2 ubiquitous young Cratchits fetch the goose and carry it to the table. Not much of a goose.
Bless us, O Lord, in these thy gifts which we are about to receive from thy bounty through Christ our Lord. Amen.
I don't believe there was ever such a good goose. so tender.
And delicious. And big.
And cheap.
It's lovely, Mother. This is a goose we shall remember for as long as we live.
Thank you, Tim. After a dissolve, Miss Belinda changes the plates. Miss Cratchit is visibly nervous. I can't stand to look at the pudding. Suppose it should not be done enough. Oh, what a wonderful pudding! Bob Cratchit holds up a glass to propose a toast. A Merry Christmas to us all, my dears. God bless us.
Oh, bless us, everyone.
The family drinks and gets to work on the pudding. Tiny Tim sits very close to his father's side upon his little stool. Bob holds Tim's withered little hand in his as if he wished to keep him by his side and dreaded that he might be taken from him. Scrooge watches them with fascination. It's a side of the Cratchits he's never thought of. Without taking his eyes off them, he nods to the spirit. Spirit, tell me if Tiny Tim will live.
I see a vacant seat in the poor chimney corner, and a crutch without an owner, carefully preserved. If these shadows remain unaltered by the future, the child will die.
No. Oh no, Spirit. Say he will be spared.
If these shadows remain unaltered by the future, none of my other race will find him here. What then? If he be like to die, he'd better do it and decrease the surplus population.
Overcome with penitence and grief, Scrooge hangs his head to hear his own words quoted.
Man, if man you be in heart, not adamant, forbear that wicked cant until you have discovered what the surplus is and where it is. Will you decide what men shall live, what men shall die? It may be that in the sight of heaven, you are more worthless and less fit to live than millions like this poor man's child. God, to hear the insect on the leaf pronouncing on the too much life among his hungry brothers in the dust.
Scrooge bends before the spirit's rebuke, and trembling, cast his eyes upon the ground. To which Bob Cratchit says, Mr. Scrooge. Scrooge looks up, startled to hear someone call his name. Bob Cratchit holds a glass up to him, making a toast. I'll give you Mr. Scrooge, the founder of the feast. The founder of the feast, indeed. I wish I had him here. I'd give him a piece of my mind to feast upon, and I hope he'd have a good appetite for it. My dear, the children, Christmas Day. It should be Christmas Day, I am sure, on which one drinks the health of such an odious, stingy heart, unfeeling man as Mr. Scrooge. You know he is, Robert. Nobody knows it better than you, poor fellow. My dear, have some charity. It's Christmas Day. I'll drink his health for your sake and the pays, but I'm not for his. Long life to him. A Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. He'll be very merry and very happy, I have no doubt. Scrooge sees he is the ogre of the family and turns away from them. toward the window where the evening sun sets. The spirit gestures to Scrooge to hold his robe, and the two rise up through the roof of the hut and high into the interior night sky. They fly above the moors, speeding out to sea. To Scrooge's horror, looking back, he sees the last of the land, a frightful range of rocks behind them. We fade on down the exterior of the ocean. Spirit and Scrooge, two rapidly moving silhouettes skimming the ocean surface. We fade to the interior of his nephew's sitting room at night. A bright, dry, gleaming room in a finely appointed house. The spirit, standing, smiling by Scrooge's side, looks at Scrooge's nephew with approving affability. Scrooge's nephew Fred laughs, holding the sides, rolling his head and twisting his face into the most extravagant contortions. Scrooge's niece by marriage laughs as heartily as he, and their assembled friends, being not a bit behindhand, roar out lustily.
He said, get this, he said that Christmas was a humbug, as I live, and he believed it too.
More shame for him, Fred. Scrooge's niece is exceedingly pretty, with a dimpled, surprised-looking capital face, a ripe little mouth that seems to be made to be kissed, as no doubt often is. She is seated in a large chair with a footstool in a snug corner right by the door, and never leaves this position.
I should very much like to meet this uncle of yours, Fred. The droll way in which you portray him makes me curious. He's a comical old fellow, that's the truth, and not so pleasant as he might be. However, his offenses carry their own punishment, and I have nothing to say against him.
I'm sure he is very rich. Fred, at least you always tell me so.
What of it, my dear? His wealth is of no use to him. He doesn't do any good with it. He doesn't make himself comfortable with it. He hasn't the satisfaction of thinking that he's ever going to benefit us with it.
I have no patience with him.
Nor I. Oh, I have. I'm so sorry for him. I couldn't be angry with him if I tried. Who suffers by his ill whims? Himself, always. Here he takes into his head to dislike us, and he won't come and dine with us. What's the consequence? All he loses is a dinner.
Indeed, I think he loses very good dinner. Really, Fred, I think you're being awfully charitable.
If that's so, it may be because my mother, God rest her saintly soul, was so very fond of him. She loved him.
The spirit glances at Scrooge, who tries to appear unmoved. But do go on, Fred. He never finishes what he begins to say. He's such a ridiculous fellow.
I was only going to say that the consequence of his taking a dislike to us and not making merry with us is, as I think, that he loses some pleasant moments which could do him no harm. I am sure he loses pleasanter companions than he can find in his own thoughts, either in his moldy old office or his dusty chambers. I mean to give him the same chance every year, whether he likes it or not, for I pity him. He may fall at Christmas till he dies, but I can't help thinking better of it. I defy him if he finds me going there in good temper year after year and saying, "Uncle Scrooge, how are you?" If it only puts £50 for his poor clerk, then that's something. And I think I shook him yesterday.
Before Fred finishes, one of the female guests has begun to play a simple little tune on the harp. The rhythm is infectious, and Scrooge keeps time with his feet, enjoying himself in a quiet way. The spirit seems greatly pleased to find him in this mood. We dissolve to the exterior of the shadow of a church. The church clock reads but a few minutes before midnight. Scrooge and the spirit stand below it, while Scrooge remains unaltered in his outward form. The ghost has grown older, clearly older, its hair whitened with age. Scrooge squints at the spirit as they stand together. Your hair is gray. Are spirits' lives so short?
My life is very brief. It ends tonight.
Tonight?
Tonight at midnight.
Forgive me if I'm not justified in what I ask, but I see something strange and not belonging to yourself, protruding from your skirts. Is it a foot or a claw?
Might as well be a claw for all the flesh there is upon it. Look here.
From the foldings of its robe, it brings two children. Wretched, abject, frightful, hideous, miserable. They kneel down at its feet and cling upon the outside of its garment.
Oh man, look. Look here. Look down here.
A boy and a girl. Yellow, meager, ragged, scowling wolfish, but prostrate in their humility, where graceful youth should have filled their features out and touched them with its freshest tints. A stale and shriveled hand like that of age has pinched and twisted them and pulled them into shreds. Spirit, are they yours?
They are man's, and they cling to me, appealing from their fathers. This boy is ignorance. This girl is want. Beware of them both, and all of their degree, but mostly beware of this little boy. For on his brow I see that written which is doom, unless the writing be erased. Deny it.
The spirit stretches out its hand towards the city.
Slander those who tell it ye. Admit it for your factious purposes, and make it worse, and bide the end.
Have they no refuge or resource?
Have they no prisons? Are there no workhouses?
Scrooge winces at this. The church bell strikes 12. Scrooge looks about him. The spirit is gone. Another, a solemn phantom. draped and hooded, comes like a mist along the ground towards him. Midnight, the last of the spirits. The phantom slowly, gravely, silently approaches. Scrooge bends down upon his knee. For in the very air through which this phantom moves, it seems to scatter gloom and mystery. It is shrouded in a deep black garment, which conceals its head, its face, its form, and leaves nothing of it visible save one outstretched hand. I am in the presence of the ghost of Christmas yet to come. The phantom answers not, but points onward with its hand. You are about to show me the shadows of the things that have not happened, but will happen in time before us. Is that so, spirit? The upper portion of the garment contracts for an instant in its folds, as if the phantom has nodded its head. Ghost of the future, I fear you more than any specter I've seen, but as I know your purpose is to do me good, as I hope to live to be another man from what I was, I'm prepared to bear your company and do it with a thankful heart. Will you not speak to me? It gives him no reply. The hand points straight before them. Lead on, lead on. The night is waning fast, and it is precious time to me. I know, lead on, spirit. The phantom moves away as if it had come towards him. Scrooge follows in its shadow, which seems to bear him up and carry him along to the interior of the London Exchange. They scarcely seem to enter the exchange, for the exchange rather seems to spring up about them. The phantom stops and points to one little knot of men. Scrooge peers at them. Among them are the fat man and the red-faced man he had spoken to the day before. Yes, I know these gentlemen, business associates. The phantom continues to point. Scrooge takes the hint and advances to listen to their talk.
No, I don't know much about it either way. All I know is he's dead.
When did he die?
Last night, I believe.
Why, what was the matter with him? I thought he'd never die.
God knows.
What did he do with his money?
I haven't heard. Left it to his company, perhaps? He hasn't left it to me, that's all I know. It's likely to be a very cheap funeral, for upon my life, I don't know anybody who'd go to it. Suppose we make up a party and volunteer.
Well, I don't mind going if a lunch is provided, but I must be fed if I make one.
Well, I am the most disinterested among you, after all, for I never wear black gloves, and I never eat lunch, but I'll offer to go, if anybody else will. When I come to think of it, I'm not at all sure that I wasn't his most particular friend, for we used to stop and speak whenever we met. Bye-bye.
The men stroll away and mix with other groups. Scrooge looks around at the multitude of pedestrians pouring past him. I can't help but notice that this is my accustomed corner. and I see by the clock that this is my usual time of day for being here, but I see no likeness of myself. Caught up in what he's saying, Scrooge fails to see the phantom move off. Not that I'm surprised, you understand. You see, I've been revolving in my mind, a change of life. And I should like to think that I'd rather hope that my not being here is a result of my having carried out some resolutions regarding. Scrooge suddenly notices that the phantom has moved on down the street, and he hurriedly follows it. Scrooge finds himself in a dark room, almost touching a bed, a bare, uncurtained bed. Merciful heaven, what is this? A pale light rising in the outer air falls straight upon the bed, and on it, plundered and bereft, unwatched, unwept, uncared for, is the body of a man. Scrooge glances towards the phantom. Its steady hand points to the covered head. Scrooge hesitantly approaches the dead man and attempts to uncover its face. But he cannot bring himself to do it. His hand shakes and he backs away. A cat meows somewhere in the dark. Scrooge, his face dripping with sweat, turns to the phantom. Spirit, this is a fearful place. In leaving it, I shall not leave its lesson. Trust me, let us go. Still, the phantom points out with an unmoved finger to its head. I understand you, and I would look at this dead man's face if I could. But I have not the power, phantom spirit. I have not the power. The phantom seems to look upon him. If there's any person in town who feels emotion caused by this man's death, allow that person to me, spirit. I beseech you. The light that falls from above instantly flashes, momentarily blinding Scrooge. When his eyes clear, we see the interior of Bob Cratchit's home at night. Mrs. Cratchit and the children sit around the fire. Quiet. Very quiet. The noisy little Cratchits are all still statues in one corner and sit looking up at Peter, who has a book before him. The mother and her daughter sew. Peter looks up to see Mrs. Cratchit lay her work upon the table and put her hand up to her face.
Shall I stop reading?
No, it's only the color. It hurts my eyes. Scrooge is puzzled by this. He peers intently at the group. Black is the color of the material. Miss Cratchit regains her composure. They're better now again. It makes them weak by candlelight. And I wouldn't show weak eyes to your father when he comes home. For the world, it must be near his time.
Fasted, rather. But I think he has walked walked a little slower than he used to these last few evenings, Mother.
Peter shuts the Bible. They're very quiet again. Then Miss Cratchit speaks in a steady, cheerful voice that only falters once. I've known him walk with Tiny Tim upon his shoulder, very fast indeed.
And so have I, often.
But he was very light to carry, and his father loved him so that it was no trouble, no trouble. A noise stirs her, and there is your father at the door. Bob and his comforter comes in alone as the family greets him with his cup of tea in an unusually subdued fashion. It finally dawns on Scrooge what has happened. Oh my God. The Phantom makes no move. Scrooge watches as the Cratchit family draws about the fire. Peter tries to read silently to himself. The girls and mother return their sewing. Bob sips his tea. I ran into Mr. Scrooge's nephew in the street today. He thought I looked just a little down, you know. And he inquired as to what had happened to distress me. On which, for he is the pleasantest spoken gentleman you ever heard, I told him, I'm heartily sorry for it, Mr. Cratchit, he said, and heartily sorry for your good wife. By the by, how he ever knew that, I don't know. Knew what? Why, that you were a good wife. Miss Cratchit smiles.
Everybody knows that.
I hope they do. Heartily sorry, he said, for your good wife. If I can be of service to you in any way, be sure to let me know. And he handed me his card. Now, it wasn't for the sake of anything he might be able to do for us, so much as for his kind way, that this was quite delightful. It really seemed as if he had known our Tiny Tim and felt with us. I'm sure he's a good soul. You would be sure of it if you saw and spoke to him. I shouldn't be at all surprised if he got Peter a better situation. Hear that, Peter?
And then Peter will be keeping company with someone and setting up for himself. Get along with you.
It's just as likely as not. One of these days. There's plenty of time for that, Peter. But however and whenever we part from one another, I am sure we shall none of us forget poor Tiny Tim, shall we? Or for first parting that there was among us.
Never, Father. Never. No, of course not.
And I know that when we recollect how patient, how mild he was, although he was little child, we shall not quarrel easily among ourselves and forget poor Tiny Tim in doing it.
No, never, Father, never. That's right.
I am very happy. Miss Cratchit kisses him. The family members look at him with concern. Bob abruptly leaves the room and goes upstairs. A bedroom, cheerfully lit and hung with Christmas decorations. Bob enters hesitantly and sits down in a chair close to the bed. After he composes himself with an unspoken prayer, He leans over and kisses the face of Tiny Tim, whose body we see stretched out, lifeless, on the bed. Bob breaks down all at once. My little child, my little child. Scrooge watches grimly from the far side of the room. The Phantom stands beside him. Scrooge shuts his eyes. Tell me what man that was we saw lying dead. When Scrooge opens his eyes, we see the exterior of the London street. They're halfway between Scrooge's counting house and the church tower opposite it. The Phantom leads Scrooge's toward the church, but Scrooge, seeing the counting house, grasps at the Phantom's robe. Wait, that's where my place of occupation is, and it's been a length of time. Let me behold what I shall be in days to come. The Phantom stops. The hand points elsewhere. My office is yonder. Why do you point that way? The inexorable finger undergoes no change. Just wait a minute, please. Scrooge rushes off. Scrooge nervously hastens to the window of his office and looks in. It's an office still, but not his. The furniture is not the same, and the figure in the chair is not himself. The Phantom points as before. Scrooge joins the Phantom once again, confused, and accompanies it until they reach an iron gate. He pauses to look around before entering. A row of gravestones. The Phantom stands among the graves and points down to one. Scrooge advances towards it, trembling, then stops. Before I draw near to that stone to which you point, answer me one question. Are these the shadows of the things that will be, or are they shadows of things that may be only? Still the Phantom points downward to the grave by which it stands. Men's courses will foreshadow certain ends to which, if best persevered in, they must lead. But if the courses be departed from, the ends will change. Say it as thus with what you show me. The Phantom is immovable as ever. Scrooge creeps toward the grave, trembling and following the finger. Reads upon the stone of the neglected grave his own name, Ebenezer Scrooge. Scrooge falls to his knees. Am I that man who lay upon the bed? The finger points from the grave to Scrooge and back again. No, spirit, no. The finger is still there. Scrooge scrambles to his feet and clutches the Phantom's robe. Spirit, hear me. I'm not the man I was. I will not be the man I must have been for this intervention. Why show me this if I am past all hope? good spirit. Your nature intercedes for me and pities me. Assure me that I yet may change these shadows you have shown me by an altered life. I will honor Christmas in my heart and try to keep it all the year. I will live in the past, the present, and the future. The spirits of all three shall strive within me. I will not shut out the lessons that they teach. Oh, tell me I may sponge away the writing on this stone. In his agony, as he catches the spectral hand, Scrooge sees an alteration in the phantom's hood and dress. It shrinks, collapses, and dwindles down into the bedpost of Scrooge's bedroom. Yeah, and the bedpost is his own. He lets go of the post and scrambles out of bed, falling to his knees. He's out of his mind, battling like a lunatic. I'm gonna live in the past, present, and the future. The spirits of all three shall strive within me. Oh, Jacob Marley, heaven and the Christmas time be praised for this. I say it on my knees, old Jacob, on my knees. Scrooge folds a bed curtain over his arm. They are not torn down. They are not torn down, rings and all. They are here. I'm here. The shadows of the things that would have been may be dispelled. They will be. I know they will. Scrooge stands there, perfectly winded. I don't know what to do. I'm as light as a feather. I'm as happy as an angel. I'm as merry as a schoolboy. I'm as giddy as a drunken man. A Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy New Year to all the world. Starts off again, going round the fireplace. Oh, there's the sausages and the saucepan and the gruel. There's the door by which the ghost of Jacob Marley entered. There's the corner where the ghost of Christmas present sat. There's the window where I saw the wandering spirits. It's all right. It's all true. It all happened. It all happened. He pauses as the church bell rings out the hour. Starts babbling along with it. Clash, clang, hammer, ding, dong. Bell, bell, dong, ding, hammer, clang, clash. Oh, glorious, glorious. He runs to the window, hurls it open and looks out. Not a trace of fog or darkness. Golden sunlight, heavenly blue sky. Merry bells. Not too many people on the street. Oh, glorious, glorious. He spots a boy in Sunday clothes loitering on the sidewalk. What's today, my boy? What's today, my fine fellow?
Today? Why, it's Christmas Day.
It's Christmas Day. I haven't missed it. The spirits have done it all in one night. They can do anything they like. Of course they can. Of course they can. Hello, my fine fellow.
Hello.
Do you know the poulterers in the next street but one at the corner?
I should hope I did.
An intelligent boy, a remarkable boy. Do you know whether they sold the prize turkey that was hanging up there? Not the little prize turkey, the big one.
What, the one as big as me?
What a delightful boy. It's a pleasure to talk to him. Yes, my buck.
It's hanging there now.
Is it? Go and buy it. The boy stares in disbelief for a moment, then thumbs his nose at Scrooge in disgust.
Walker.
No, I'm in earnest. Go and buy it, and tell them to bring it here, that I may give them the directions where to take it. Come back with the man, and I'll give you a shilling. Come back with him in less than 5 minutes, and I'll give you half a crown. The boy takes off running down the street. Oh, I'll send it to Bob Cratchit's. He shan't know who sent it. It's twice the size of Tiny Tim. Joe Miller never made such a joke as sending it to Bob's will be. Out in the street, Scrooge is dressed in his Sunday best. By this time, crowds pour forth, as he had seen them with the ghost of Christmas present. Walking with his hands behind him, Scrooge regards everyone with delightful smiles. We fade to the exterior of his house at night. It's a nice part of town. Scrooge paces uncertainly outside. He slowly approaches the front door, but at the last moment, he returns to the sidewalk. Finally, he takes a deep breath, finds the courage to go up and knock, and makes a dash for it. He knocks and stands there, tight-lipped and shaking nervously. No answer. He begins to leave. A maid opens the door. Is your master home, my dear?
Yes, sir.
Where is he, my love?
He's in the sitting room, sir, along with the mistress. I'll show you in, if you please.
The maid leads Scrooge to the closed sitting room door. Thank you, he knows me. I'll just go in, my dear. From his face, it's clear to her that he is scared to enter. Taking a deep breath, he turns the doorknob gently and straddles his face in round the door. Scrooge sees his nephew Fred surrounded by his party guests, all laughing a long, hearty laugh, exactly as Scrooge had heard it with the spirit.
He said, get this, he said that Christmas was a humbug, as I live, and he believed it too.
Fred! Scrooge flings the door open and startles his niece, who is, as before, sitting in the chair in the corner right by the door. Scrooge is at once apologetic and turns to her. Oh, I'm sorry, my dear. I forgot you were there. She doesn't know quite what to make of that. Scrooge's back is momentarily turned toward his nephew, who gazes on him in disbelief.
Why, bless my soul, who's that?
Scrooge turns around to face his astonished nephew, then nervously threads his way through the guests to confront him. It's I, your Uncle Scrooge. He flashes a happy grin. The guests stare at him in confusion. I've come as you've asked. Will you let me in, Fred?
Let you in?
He shakes Scrooge's hand so hard it's a mercy he doesn't take his arm off. Fred is still laughing at some of the other guest crowd around Scrooge, greeting him, patting him on the back, bringing him a drink. Some of the others move away from him and whisper among themselves, "Surely this isn't Uncle Ebenezer."
You know, I have always wanted to meet you, Mr. Scrooge. The droll way in which your nephew portrays you has made me curious. I say, have you met Mr.
One of the female guests has begun to play a simple little tune upon the harp, and the others choose partners and take to dancing about the room. There might be 20 people there, young and old, but they all dance, including for the first time in years, Ebenezer Scrooge. We dissolve to the interior of the counting house. The day after Christmas, bright sunshine pours into Scrooge's office. All is quiet save for the ticking of the clock, which reads 9:18. Scrooge sits behind his desk, grinning like a madman, with his door wide open so that he might see Bob Cratchit come into his tank-like office. Bob burst in, his hat and comforter already off. He jumps on his stool in a jiffy, driving away with his pen as if he were trying to overtake 9 o'clock. Meanwhile, trying to suppress a grin, Scrooge manages an approximation of his old caustic personality. "Cratchit, you're late. What do you mean by coming here at this time of day?" "I am very sorry, sir. I am behind my time." You are. I think you are. Step this way, if you please." Bob reluctantly leaves the tank and joins Scrooge in the office. "It's only once a year, sir. It shall not be repeated. I was making rather Merry Christmas yesterday, sir." "Now, I'll tell you what, my friend. I'm not going to stand here for this sort of thing any longer, and therefore..." Scrooge leaps from his chair and gives Bob such a dig in the waistcoat that he staggers back into the tank again. "And therefore, I'm about to raise your salary." Bob gasps, trembles, and inches away from Scrooge, picking up a nearby roller to use in self-defense. "A Merry Christmas, Bob." "A merrier Christmas, God, Bob, my good fellow, than I have given you for many a year. I'm going to raise your salary, and if you'll let me, I'd like to try to help your family." An incredulous Bob stares at Scrooge for a long, long moment. "Well, let's discuss it this afternoon over a Christmas bowl of smoking bishop, Bob. Make up the fires and buy another coal scuttle before you dot another one." Scrooge grins at a still uncertain Bob Cratchit. The distant sound of carolers singing an appropriate hymn grows louder as we dissolve to the interior of a sitting room at night. The narrator looks down at the book in his lap, a quiet smile on his face. Outside his window, a small group of carolers slowly approached, continuing the hymn. The young people circled around the narrator, seemed edgy and dissatisfied. And that's the story.
How much of that was true?
Well, I was there for some of it, and I heard about some of it, and I made up the rest.
Yeah, but did old man Scrooge really keep his word?
Yes. In fact, he was better than his word. He did everything he said he would, and much more.
What happened to Tiny Tim? Did he? Did
No,
he?
no, he didn't die. And Scrooge was like a second father to him. He became as good a friend, as good a teacher, and as good a man as any person could hope to know. The girls seemed reassured by this.
Oh, come on. People don't just change like that overnight.
In fact, a lot of people laughed at him when he changed, but he let them laugh and didn't pay any attention to it. I think he was smart enough to know that nothing good ever happens in this world that people won't laugh at first. And that it's better to make people laugh than make them do some other things. His own heart laughed, and I think that was good enough for him.
And do you mean to say that he had no further intercourse with the spirits?
Oh, well, after that, he adopted the principle of abstinence, and no spirits ever visited him again, as far as he knew. Well, it was always said of Mr. Scrooge that if anyone knew how to keep Christmas, well, it was him. If only that could truly be said of us, of all of us. Merry Christmas. The narrator returns the book to the 10-year-old girl.
May God bless us, everyone.
The narrator smiles. Outside, the caroling has gotten steadily louder. The tapping sound causes everyone to turn to the window, where the carolers beckon to them. Everyone in the room hollers, "Hey, look who's here!" They rise and rush to the front door, except for the 10-year-old girl who lingers to help the narrator to his feet. He thanks her, and hand in hand, they follow the others out the door. For the first time, we see he carries a cane and limps, favoring his right leg. Could this be Tiny Tim all grown up? They join the little crowd just outside the door. And as they sing, their breath visible in the cold night air, we pan up and away to find the exterior of a rooftop. A spectral figure leaning over the edge of the roof, peering down, smiling at the music. It is Marley's ghost. A look of peace and satisfaction on its no longer glassy face. Marley turns to reveal another ghost right beside him. Scrooge. To the surprise of both, the chain around Marley's body jerks to life and begins to unspool rapidly, falling away from him as if there were a ship's anchor at the end of it. In a moment, the chain is gone and Marley is free. He clutches his waist and looks himself over and then beams at Scrooge gratefully. Scrooge grins, then realizes something. Suddenly, he reaches up with his left hand and removes the wrapper that keeps Marley's jaw in place. The jaw does not drop. Marley clicks his teeth together a few times to test them, then breaks into a broad smile. He mouths a thank you to Scrooge. As we fade in on what appears to be the floor of Scrooge's room, upon which rests the extinguisher cap, last seen covering the ghost of Christmas past. The cap flips over and the ghost appears from under it in a dazzling burst of light. The final image is of Tiny Tim in Scrooge's arms, giving the old man a hug.
May God bless us, everyone.
A Christmas Carol. Check. Sk, 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 sk.
Sk, 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 sk.
Sk, 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 sk.